talking about some of the issues that he sees and why it should be, a moratorium should be supported.
And I think there are votes to pass this bill as a very legitimate planning bill that really helps to address some serious issues that people have raised in areas that are where there's serious impacts. And I think, I'm disappointed that certain environmental organizations who hold themselves out as environmental organizations have claimed that this is an anti-environment, anti-renewable bill, which clearly is virtually the opposite.
The bill that Senator Hartwell is talking about is much watered down from what I was just discussing. It now is talking about having wind projects and other projects subject to Act 250 review. Are you disappointed it's gone in that direction and that the moratorium idea didn't stay?
No, I think, unfortunately, we had this word moratorium that caused people to become polarized. If you looked at even the original version of the bill, which was a year ago, actually it was an amendment to the appropriations bill, what it was calling for was a system to be put in place where we actually observed our entire energy picture, looking towards the future to use renewables and figuring out which kinds of renewables were actually giving us the best bang for a buck, if you would. And to call it a moratorium, looking back, I wish we had never gone that way, because we literally had polarized those people who probably could have come out early in support of the idea. But now, as I see the bill is accomplishing exactly what we were calling for in the beginning stages. It is setting up a system, it is setting up a study, it is giving us the opportunity to examine the tools that we want to use in the future, but make sure we spend our limited resources on the right tool for the right job. And to me, if we can get that message delivered here tonight and everywhere else for the next week, I think we've come a long way from where we were a year ago.
There's going to be a vote on this, Senator Bruce, on Tuesday. What's the Democratic Party position on this?
There is no Democratic Party position, and I haven't been in the majority leader's job very long, but I've learned that there almost always isn't a Democratic Party position because we've become such a big tent party. We have 23 senators out of 30. We often have 2, maybe 3 party positions. So on this issue, as with others, people will be voting their conscience, as we say. But we will have that debate on Tuesday, and then probably finish on Wednesday, possibly Thursday.
So what do you think about this legislation?
I don't personally support it, but as majority leader, what I've been trying to do is make sure that issues where we have strong support on both sides of an issue, we have the debate and we have it fully. And then at the end of that debate, we have an up or down vote and move on. And so what I've been trying to do is be an honest broker, make sure everybody gets their amendments out, make sure the bill is in shape, and then at the end of the day, as I say, I will vote against it. But there's a strong push to have the debate heard, and I want to make sure we get them.
Does the Progressive Party have a position on this?
Well, I should remind you that for what it's worth, I also do caucus with the Democrats.
I know you do.
Well.
I know you do.
I have a position on this, and I want to say 2 things about it. One, the bill itself basically has the potential to put the brakes not just on wind, but on all renewables at a time when we really should be working towards having more renewable energy in the state and more energy independence, wean ourselves off of petroleum and other out-of-state energy sources. So the bill has the potential to put the brakes on renewables, not things like gas pipelines or oil or transmission lines. And then what it does, the second thing is it does, after it sets up this new process to slow things down, it says, then we're going to do these studies to figure out what we should do. Normally what you would do is you would do the studies before you implement the policy, but this is going backwards. I think for that reason the bill is problematic. The other problem is that I'm a strong believer in Act 250. I work with citizens that are working through the Act 250 process often. But I would remind people of 2 things. One is that Act 250 does not necessarily stop development. Look at the Walmarts, look at the sugar bushes. There's a lot of things that go through Act 250 quite well. The thing about energy is we need an energy policy that works for the whole state. And while I believe in giving communities and people a voice in decision-making, energy policy needs to be something that we do statewide. We don't need a statewide network of Walmarts. We do need a statewide network of electricity that works for all of us. That's why we need to be able to have an energy policy that provides an overview it is not necessarily stopped at this point from moving forward towards more renewables.
You see the same problems he does?
Well, I see that Act 250 is not the brakes. I see Act 250 as a process where people would be expected to meet environmental criteria. And when you say that the industry, the renewable industry itself, would be suddenly brought to a halt because of this, I think that's very unfortunate, because right now they are subject to Act 250. It's just that the standard under the the Section 248 process is set at a slightly lower bar. They have to give Act 250 criteria due consideration, but they don't have to be in conformance with the Act 250 criteria, which is what we are asking to have happen. And when you take a major land use entity like a wind farm, that in the case of Lowell, literally ripped off the top of a mountain, put in 135 acres worth of roads, you've got a major land use issue that has to be dealt with, and that's what Act 250 is all about.
A email question about energy. Why should taxpayer money be used to provide credits for a private company to build a wood biomass power plant? Anybody have share the objection that the listener has to that?
I'm not sure who your listener is, but you know, the energy that we are creating by way of renewables in virtually every camp is given a production tax credit to get started. They are also given enhanced rates along the way in order to be maintained. And then, in return for the energy that they produce, they're able to sell out of state renewable energy credits, which is used to offset the brown power that's produced out of state. To me, that's an energy Ponzi scheme. It is unfortunate, and it's part of the reason we are asking for the Agency of Natural Resources to have a study and to look at how we're doing this and make sure, is this the way we actually want to go with this, or is there a more economical and environmental way to make this policy work? So to respond to Senator Polina, usually what you do is you do these studies and you set up the protocols before you actually commence construction. Unfortunately, we are now being driven by the developers, and our entire energy policy is leading the discussion through the developers rather than the state of Vermont.
Let's go back to the phone here. Let's go to Chester. Leslie, thank you for being patient. Good evening. Leslie, good evening.
Hi, yes, I am going back to a comment about gas tax.
Okay.